Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Winging It Waterfowl podcast. I'm your host, Troy Miller. With me, as always, my co-host, Blake.
How's it going, everyone?
And tonight we have very special guest, Brian Halbleib from Migrationg Waterfowl.
How's it going, gentlemen?
Doing great. We appreciate you coming on tonight. I know I'm a huge fan of your show, and
appreciate that.
This is what, a year and a half you've been into it now?
Yeah, a little over a year and a half. I think we're
80s?
82, 83, and this spring will be 2 years.
Awesome. Wow. So I guess for anyone who doesn't know you, just go ahead and kind of tell everyone who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Sure. My name is Brian Halbleib, born and raised in Western Pennsylvania. I've been hunting most of my life, fishing, camping. My father got me into the outdoors, ever since I can remember. He was taking us camping and fishing. And back then in Pennsylvania, you had to be 12 to actually hunt. So I had to wait a while for that. But a lot of fishing and camping until hunting came around. Dad was a deer hunter and did a little bit of small game and upland birds and things. He wasn't a waterfowl hunter, so that kind of came later in life. Had some friends introduce me to that. Went down a rabbit hole and started a podcast many years later, and here I am today.
Yes, sir. Now, was all your family hunting, or because I know you've talked several times about quite a bit of a deer hunting background and everything up in Pennsylvania, or was your dad kind of the one-off that started all that?
No, him and his brothers all hunted. Most of my uncles, I should say, hunted with them. A lot of my cousins, my brother, and his father died when he was pretty young, so I never met my dad's dad. My grandfather on my mom's side grew up in Wyoming and went to high school in Montana, so he was a cattle rancher. So he's got a lot of experience. Just, that's how they lived out there back in the 40s and 30s and 40s when he grew up. So yeah, a lot of family history and tradition, but like I said, mostly Pennsylvania. It's a big deer hunting state, so the waterfowl came later in life.
Yes, sir. So you were talking about the 12 years old to be able to hunt. Is that not still a thing there?
No, they've gone to the mentored youth, I think they call it now.
Okay.
I don't even think there's an age limit at all. I think they leave it up to the parents now, but there's restrictions in the regulations that the parents have to, be next to them and have them, I don't know what the wording is they use, but under control, I guess you would say. And until they get to be, I think it's 16, then you can start hunting on your own.
Okay. Do y'all have kind of requirement with hunter safety course kind of deal?
Oh, yeah.
With y'all up there? I know whenever I started out in Oklahoma, we were still living in Oklahoma at the time, and there was no age limit, age minimum, but you had to have your hunter safety, and then it transferred over to Texas, and we took it again just because I was into 4-H shooting sports and everyone had to take it. But
okay,
I know there was no minimum age there, but you had to have that if you were even considering, like if you were outside your parents' reach, you had to have that hunter safety course.
Sure.
Back then. So who got you into waterfowl, and what age were you when you started that?
So let me think here. That was about 15-ish years ago. I had moved to the other side. I actually grew up in the east kind of suburbs and rural area of eastern side of Pittsburgh, I guess is the biggest town that people would be familiar with. And then when I took a job after I got out of the military, I ended up on the west side, kind of in a rural / it's more suburban now. When I moved here, there was a bunch more farms, but they're kind of all been turned into housing plans in the last 30 years. But moved out here, met a couple of new hunting buddies that were big into deer and turkey hunting. And their names were Chris and Jamie Palmer, brothers. Chris actually works for the township that I work for, and that's how we got to know each other and started hunting together. And just from deer hunting and turkey hunting, he's like, you got to come waterfowl hunting with us. And I was like, man, I'd love to, but I can't have any more hobbies. I got 2 little girls and my wife's a teacher, and I was working steady midnight so I could be up with the kids all day and then go to bed when she came home. So it was like, I just couldn't squeeze another thing in. But things started to open up a little bit as my daughters were getting older, and I went on that first waterfowl hunt with them, and that was it. I was hooked.
Did you go right there around in Pennsylvania, or did y'all travel any back then?
Yeah. All of my early hunting for waterfowl was in Pennsylvania. Pretty fortunate. It's not the greatest place in the world, obviously, to hunt waterfowl, but I'm 2 hours south of Lake Erie, and in between Lake Erie and where I'm at, we've got so many major river systems. The Allegheny comes down from the north, connects with the Monongahela River that forms the headwaters of the Ohio River. We've got tons of marshes and swamps and creeks and tributaries and backwaters in between. All of that from Lake Erie to Pennsylvania or to Pittsburgh. So when it gets good, when those birds are getting pushed across Lake Erie or coming around Lake Erie, a lot of them come around the coastline, and the weather's right and the migration's right, we've got a lot of places to intercept them on their way south.
Do y'all get mostly puddle ducks, or do y'all get a lot of divers coming off those big lakes, or do you have to kind of go to the big lakes to get those divers?
So we get both. Erie obviously is loaded with them, but our big river systems hold a lot too. They'll use that on their migration south. It's nothing for me to drive across one of the big rivers, especially the Ohio, and see just giant rafts of canvasbacks and bluebills and things like that. So it's pretty awesome.
Man, that'd be great.
So do you drive up to Erie and do diver hunts a lot, or do you try to stay where you're at?
I mostly have puddle duck hunted most of my years, but the last few years I've started to branch out and do a little more diver hunting. Went on my first layout boat hunt on Erie last year, which was quite an experience, and starting to learn how to hunt them off the shore up there.
Yeah,
gonna do a lot more of that this year. So yeah, I mean, I still love puddle ducks, especially mallards. I love calling them and watching them work the decoys and come in. But duck hunting's duck hunting to me. I'll take any ducks any day.
Yes, sir. How's the goose hunting been this year? Is that mostly? Do y'all do that mostly on fields and rivers, or?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of field opportunities here. We got a lot of farms around us, but some of my marsh spots they're loaded with geese too. I'll go in there, especially opening day of our duck season comes in. We get a little bit of an early season in October, and there's plenty of geese on the water too. The rivers are loaded up with them. We got no shortage of Canada geese, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Tons of them.
Yeah. Do y'all have any other geese that y'all can kind of target up there? Or is it primarily Canada's?
Occasionally we'll get some snow geese come through. Central Pennsylvania used to be a huge stop for the snow geese. I've never gone out there and hunted them. I'm not sure what the status of that is nowadays. I've heard it's kind of gone downhill a little bit. I don't know if their migrations have shifted, but yeah, mostly Canada's.
Awesome. So, did you say what year it was kind of when you got started into waterfowl?
That was around 2009, 2010. 2009.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I know you said that you used to have a magazine, then you co-hosted a deer hunting podcast prior to Migration, correct? How did that all come about?
Yeah, so back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I was crazy about deer hunting, and I met a friend that was from Ohio, and I started hunting in Ohio, and then the bucks are even bigger over in Ohio. Pennsylvania's getting better, but it's never been like Ohio. Like we're kind of in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains here, and we don't have that deep, rich soil and the amount of crops that Ohio does. We've got a lot of farms, but I think the soil is probably the biggest reason over there in Ohio that I can figure out anyway. But and they've never had a rifle season. They just recently switched to straight wall cartridges, but it's been shotgun only forever, and one buck state, of course. So they had a lot going for them over in Ohio, which, less hunters. And their tradition was kind of, shoot older bucks. Where in Pennsylvania, everybody was always like, "Did you get your buck?" "I got my buck," and it didn't matter if it was a fork horn or a 150-inch monster. It's guys just shot whatever they saw, and that kind of set the herd back here. But anyway, not to get up too far off the question there, but yeah. So I was freelance writing for a couple of magazines. I'd always kind of been a storyteller. I always enjoyed that aspect of it, and getting to know a bunch of different publishers and magazine companies that I was writing for. I got really heavily into traditional archery at the time, and a lot of people in my circles going to trade shows and other writers and publishers and things that I got to know. They're like, there's really no centralized resource for traditional guys that, especially ones that build their bows. I got into it so heavy. I was building my own bows. I was building my own arrows, and came home one day and told my wife I was going to start a magazine for bowyers. That a bowyer, somebody that builds bows, if people are unfamiliar, and it was called the Bowyer's Journal, and kind of took off. 2005, I started that. It grew to a point where my wife and I, and our daughters were tiny at the time. My daughters were born in 2002 and 2005. So I started a business on top of a full-time job when my second daughter was born. And I had subscribers in 33 countries after about 3 years. And it was just growing to the point where my wife and I were just hanging on for dear life, which was what you want, is what you hope. But it's always like, careful what you wish for. But
yeah,
got to a point where I was going to have to either hire a bunch of people or figure something else out. And a publisher from Wisconsin had been contacting me for a while. He was really interested in buying the magazine, and kind of like, no, I'm not ready to sell. No, I'm not ready to sell. And this was just getting into 2008, and nobody could see that financial downturn coming, obviously. And I think it was kind of the grace of God that I prayed about it, and it felt like he was telling me it's time to move on from that. And literally, as I signed the papers, like advertisers and sponsors were like pulling funds back from not just my magazine, but lots of magazines, because the financial crisis had begun, and businesses were cutting back. And I actually felt bad for the publisher that bought the magazine, because he was getting frustrated. He was like, why are these people pulling out? And it was already a done deal. We stayed in touch because I was still helping him along, to make sure he was. And I'm like, I wish I had an answer for you. I wish I could help that, but there's nothing I could do about that. But it was a good ride. I got to meet a lot of good people, and yeah, that's the story of kind of how I got into the magazine. I can jump into how I transferred that into podcasting and stuff, unless you have some follow-up questions.
When you had your magazine, was it all paper? This is kind of pre-big digital, I'm assuming, if it was around 2008. I mean, I know there was some digital stuff back then, but it wasn't real big.
Yeah.
So did y'all do any digital?
It was all printed. That kind of digital. I think the biggest thing that I was into back then, that everybody else was in the hunting world, were like those online forums where you can go on and kind of talk to guys around the world about whatever you're into: waterfowl, archery, hunting.
I got deep into those in predator hunting and deer hunting and archery as well back then, and you don't see them much anymore.
I was about to say, with big deal where we were was the Texas, what was that, bow hunter, or the Texas big game or something like that. That was a big
Texas
thing.
Trophy, Texas Trophy
Hunters.
Trophy hunters, yeah. I remember me and my dad used to get those magazines in. We read them all the time and read them again. Like, oh, when's the next one coming in? And now, I mean, you just look stuff up.
Yeah, no doubt. It's crazy.
So with you getting in, I know you said you'd kind of been freelance writing. Did you have any background in that, or did you just kind of pick that up to start the freelance writing prior to your magazine?
No, I've always been a big reader. I've always been a big fan of books and magazines. And, growing up, obviously, I'm 51. I was born in 1974. We didn't have the internet, didn't have anything digital. It was all, back then, it was all books early on and magazines. That's all we had to go on with hunting. And then man, I'm really dating myself here. Then came the VCR tapes, and we started watching hunting videos and Dan Fitzgerald and all those old time bow hunters. And then Drury Brothers started putting out videos, and this was before outdoor television and everything. You might have caught a fishing show on ESPN or Fred Bear on ABC or something, but yeah. So I just always enjoyed the written word and reading about stories, and I was always kind of messing around writing stuff, and I kept journals, and just kind of naturally came from that. I started writing, and I thought nobody's ever going to want to read any of this stuff that I'm writing. And then a publisher sent me a letter back, and they're like, hey, we'd like to buy your article. And I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. And
so was that just kind of through the forums? Is that how that kind of got introduced for someone to happen upon your writings, or were you submitting them?
No, so you would submit not the whole article, but you'd submit like a draft of to see if the magazine was interested. Like, hey, I went on this caribou hunt in Alaska with my longbow. I built the longbow myself. This is what happened. If you would be interested in an article about it, I'd be happy to show you the full article. Because they would get so many submissions that they would want like a synopsis, and photography was always my shortcoming. They always wanted good photography, and they had enough photographers on staff, but that's one thing that I still haven't mastered. I keep saying I want to do that, but it's just like, man, I got so many other things going on.
That's a big rabbit hole.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, you said you got started into the podcast as well later on?
Yeah, so I started working after I sold my magazine. I had been a member of Pennsylvania, United Bow Hunters of Pennsylvania. And they knew that I was involved in publishing and writing and things. So they asked me to be the editor of their magazine. So I kind of took that on. It wasn't very demanding. They're kind of a smaller organization. We've got a lot of bow hunters in Pennsylvania, but it's hard to get people to join things, whether it's, Delta Waterfowl or Ducks Unlimited. Sometimes people just aren't joiners. So I think the most we had was close to 10,000 members. So, 10,000 circulation magazine at the time was pretty decent, but small scale compared to, the stress that I was under from the previous work. So kind of worked with them through that. And then as YouTube started to get popular and, they asked if I could start their social media, and I'm like, well, you're asking the wrong guy. I don't know what I would have been at that time, in my late 30s. And I'm like, you may want somebody younger that knows about this YouTube and social media stuff. But they're like, well, you're the editor, and, we'd like to have you continue to be the voice and the face of that. So I just figured it out like I did with starting a magazine and freelance writing, and kind of stepped into the digital age there. And from there, I continued on the forums, and from selling my magazine, I was pretty fortunate to buy my first piece of property in 2007. It was a 25-acre piece in eastern Ohio, and started doing my own habitat work and trying to figure out how to do food plots and all that type of management stuff. So that led me down another rabbit hole on another forum, and guys would have their own kind of threads on there, I think they were called.
Yeah.
And you could go on and see like the history and the continuation of the work that people were doing. So I kind of had my own little thread and updated it, once a week or whenever I did a project, and kind of built a little following around that. And I was going to the ATA one year for the United Bow Hunters of Pennsylvania, and this guy reached out to me and he said, "Hey," he said, "I've been following your habitat work, and you've done a lot of good stuff with deer habitat, and I think it's really cool. I'm starting this podcast. I'd like to have you on as a guest. I'd like to meet you at the ATA." So we met for beers and dinner after the show one night and kind of hit it off. He had me on his podcast. I think I was episode 2, I think, maybe 2 or 3. And then started co-hosting after that. And 6 years and 200 and some episodes later, really got to have a good time with the podcasting and start to learn the ins and outs of that. So really enjoyed that.
Now, did y'all end the podcast, or is it still going, or did you
it's
just
still going?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just kind of step back from that, I guess.
Yeah. So I think it kind of ran its course for me. I was hoping I kind of had a vision for how I wanted to help with, I started the YouTube channel for that as well, built that from the ground up, got that monetized, kind of built the social media out, and kind of had a vision of where I was trying to take that. And I thought we were both kind of on the same page, and turned out that we weren't. And since that wasn't my baby and I didn't really have a say in the matter, it just kind of ran its course. And I thought to myself, boy, this is really an opportunity for me to jump full speed into my other passion, which is waterfowl hunting. And knowing the ins and outs of the podcast world kind of made it a lot easier for me to jump in and kind of do my own thing. So, everything works out for a reason. I think God closed that door and opened this one for me, and it's been a wild ride since then.
Yes, sir. So did Migration Waterfowl start pretty quickly after that, or did you take a while off before you jumped in on your own to start this podcast up?
Yeah, I think it was about a year. Like, things started to slow down with the Habitat podcast. And I kind of was just enjoying not having to do any content, because it was just a grind of, trying to get that YouTube channel established and posting all the time and filming and editing and trying to come up with ideas and, getting the social media going. And again, I was in my 40s at that point, and it's like trying to figure out, what are these algorithms, and what are this, how does this work and how does that work? And it's just, I've always kind of had that gift of just a hard work ethic. That's kind of gotten me everywhere that I've ever gone in life. I don't know if I have much talent, but nobody's going to outwork me. At least that's what I try to say.
Yes, sir. So with Migration Waterfowl, being in it almost 2 years now, what was kind of the expectation image you had for the show, coming off something, as you were saying, not really your baby, but this being, you're full in on this, and you're, in charge of every aspect of it. What was kind of the image for it? Was it just something that you want to do as kind of like a pastime, or is this the direction that you saw it going?
So no, I didn't expect it to be where we're at now. My youngest daughter started college. My oldest is in med school, and my wife's a school teacher. So all of a sudden, all the ladies in my house are gone in the fall, like almost all the time now. So I'm like, man, I got a lot of time. I can do a lot of hunting. I can do a lot of this. I can do a lot of that. But, waterfowl kind of took a back seat to obviously working for a habitat podcast. I was doing a lot of content for that. My life was kind of revolved around the deer side of things. So the waterfowl kind of took a back seat. And there were some other things that happened in Pennsylvania. A lot of my friends started having families that I waterfowl hunted with. One moved out of state, and the group kind of broke up, and that kind of coincided with the Atlantic Flyway cutting back to 2 mallards for a while. And guys were just like, I don't want to put in all that time just to go shoot 2 ducks. And so perfect storm, waterfowl just kind of took a back seat naturally. And then boom, here I am with all this time in the fall again. Atlantic Flyway's back to 4 mallards. And I felt kind of rusty. I started going out on my own because I didn't have anybody to go with. I didn't know anybody else that waterfowl hunted with. And I was super rusty. I'm like, man, it's been too long since I've done this. So starting the podcast was kind of a way for me selfishly to start picking people's brains that had way more experience than me. And I'm like, well, this is a great way for me to start something that I'm passionate about, keep the podcast going. Cause I loved the best part about the podcast, whether it was the Habitat podcast or connections through the magazine and the United Bow Hunters traveling ATA, is the people. I mean, we talk about it all the time. You know, that's the best part of it, the friendships you make and the relationships that you build. So it was kind of those two things. I was just looking for that, looking to get better and polishing up my waterfowl skills, and figured if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it as best as I can. I'm just going to grind it out and, you know, try to put the best product out there, because why else are we here if we're not going to try to put the best product out there? So I guess that caught some fire and caught some attention, and, you know, I was in the right place at the right time with a lot of things. I had Jeff Coates from Pit Boss Waterfowl, who didn't know me from Adam. I called him up and was like, would you like to come on my podcast? And he was like, absolutely. I'd love to come on there and talk to you. But he could have told me to go pound salt, but he's got an Instagram following of over 100,000 people. And after I had him on the show, I literally woke up the next day and had like 8,000 more followers than I had.
Oh, wow.
That's
the
awesome.
day before. And once I hit that 10,000 Instagram mark, it just caught fire, and my downloads started going up and up and up and up. And then the sponsors started reaching out, and I'm just like, man, this is crazy. Kind of like how the magazine was. It was kind of like, just hold on for dear life, and you got to figure it out, because there's a lot of stuff. I'm like, well, I don't know what to tell these partners. You know, I don't know what people are charging. And then things just started to fall into place. I got to know Elliot from Freelance Duck Hunting. He's got the North American Waterfowler podcast. He's been super generous and super helpful. And, you know, there's a lot of people in this industry, and I shouldn't say a lot. There's some people in this industry, they're very selfish and guarded, and they have what they perceive as trade secrets. And, you know, well, I figured it out. I don't have to tell you anything. You go figure it out. And, you know, that's their right to do that. But I was fortunate to meet a lot of really good people that said, hey, this is what I'm charging. This is the downloads I'm getting. And you can kind of start to get an idea of, okay, this is how this works. And then next thing you know, I'm sharing information with 4 or 5 different podcasters, YouTubers. And, you know, it's kind of like a union. You're all on the same page. You're not going to let companies push you around. Not to say that there's bad, you know, a lot of bad companies out there doing that, but back in the old days, a lot of these companies would throw people product, and people would put all kind of time in and try to get somewhere. And then they're like, well, we gave you a couple $100 worth of stuff and you can call yourself a pro staff member.
Yeah.
Well, now those days are gone. That model's not working anymore. These content producers and content creators are getting a lot of eyes and ears on their product, and it's no different. And of course, we're not on any scale like an NBC or an ABC, but we're putting together a product that's getting a lot of eyes and ears, and there's value to that.
Yes,
and
sir.
there's nothing wrong with knowing your value and sticking to that. So it's just kind of, like I said, I was kind of lucky to have this all line up and get to know the right people and get the right information. So it's really taken off fast. And it was honestly kind of like a fake it till you make it type deal. And, you know, I try to be as genuine as you can be. You know, people say to me, oh, you only shoot retays because they pay you to shoot them. That's not true. If they were garbage, I wouldn't use them. I've had companies reach out to me, but for a little while until you figure it out, you do have to fake it a little bit. Not to say that you're trying to pretend to be somebody that you're not, but it's just all new to you. So you have to try to figure it out.
So when you started this, was this kind of just, you'd said it was your passion kind of deal. Were you thinking it was going to be here? I know you said it kind of took off a little faster than you expected, but were you just mostly wanting to do this for, as you said, your passion and kind of getting some tips and tricks off people? Or did you see it? Was this your end goal, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, is to be at the point you're at and the direction you're heading now? Or has your image for it and your expectation changed over the last year and a half?
Oh, it's changed a lot, but it's not for what I expected it. It's just kind of organically it's gone this way. I mean, like I said, I've always enjoyed being a storyteller, and I'm fortunate to have a good life, have a good living. I'm not rich by any means. I've been in law enforcement for 30 years, but I make a decent salary. My wife's a teacher. She makes a decent salary. So obviously I wasn't doing it for money because, as you know, and anybody else knows that's into podcasting, you're not going to get rich doing it.
Yeah, we know Blake's a fireman and I was EMS.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife's still a medic, so.
And that's a lot of these new people that come in are like, if you're here for the money, you're in here for the wrong thing because.
Yeah. So no, to answer your question, that this was not my vision. My vision was just to kind of have something as a hobby, to kind of explore my passion, get better at it, meet new people. And, I guess kind of in the back of my head, I can retire in 3 years. And a little bit of that was like, well, this would be kind of cool if I could build this into something that'll last 3 years. And then when I'm retired, it'll be kind of something fun to do. But I never expected it to be to this point. I still really don't have a vision for it, which is probably a bad thing. But my mentality's always been, I'm still just putting my head down and grinding it out. And
yes, sir.
Whatever happens, happens.
So were you wanting to get into YouTube, or were you wanting to stay away from that initially? Because I know you kind of were delayed on the pushing the YouTube for a little bit.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
Yeah. Well, the nice thing about there's good and bad things for YouTube. I mean, that's another way to have a kind of a log of, the podcast is the audio log of all this knowledge. And then the YouTube is kind of a visual log of not only the knowledge, but you can look back at all your memories. When I'm 85 years old, I hope YouTube's still around, or at least I have the videos saved somewhere that I can go back and watch those hunts, because that's what we're doing it for the memories and for the experiences. You want to relive those as much as you want. So that's kind of where that's at. I don't really know if I'll ever get that channel monetized to any point where it's actually making any serious money. It's so hard to break into YouTube now. They've changed everything from where it was at, and I still don't understand how it works. There's the algorithms. My buddies talk to me about, you try to post at these times and you try to use this thumbnail, and I'm like, listen, I can only do so much. And I see these guys, they'll do the Instagram, and then there's something called threads on Instagram. I'm like, I don't even have time for the Instagram stuff. And now you want me to do threads inside of Instagram? And it's just like, so yeah, I mean, I love the video aspect of it. I've gotten it dialed into the point where it's just part of my hunt now. When I go, I've got stationary GoPros either on my head or in the decoys. And then I started out with a bigger camera for interviews and things, but now I just use my phone. I mean, these iPhones have amazing video cameras on it. So I kind of got it dialed in where it's not really a burden. It's never going to be some polished Hollywood, outdoor television quality, but people seem to be enjoying it. It's creeping up there a little bit at a time, but I think that's going to take a little bit longer to grow.
Yeah.
It seems like you got a good group of guys, though. I mean, I was on Elliot's show for a little bit. I was in the middle of fire season and caught a fire halfway through, and I was like, Elliot, I ain't gonna be able to finish this. I'm sorry. It was a crazy deal, but I mean, Elliot's a great guy. I listen to his. That's how I got kind of hooked into yours. Is I started listening to Elliot, and he started mentioning you.
Yeah, and he's a fantastic human.
Yes, I texted him. We went to Nebraska a week ago now, Troy, almost 2, something like that. Now I was texting him. I was like, hey, I know you hunt Nebraska. Yes, I don't need no pins or nothing. Just kind of give me a little update of what you think's going on. He's answered a text message right back. Great guy. And I mean, and all that whole group of guys that are together and hunt together is awesome too. I mean, we listen to pretty much all their podcasts between me and Troy, and Shoot the Flat Day ammo, and that's how we got caught up on a lot of this ammo and some of the podcast stuff and tips and just listening to y'all and chokes and everything.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a great group to be associated with, and like I said, with Jeff Coates from Pit Boss, Elliot and Jordan Fromer, Aiden, any of those guys could have just said, who's this guy coming out here trying to come out from Pennsylvania, but for whatever reason, like I said, God opened those doors to those relationships, and it's just worked out, and I've been very blessed to call them friends now.
Yes, sir. I completely agree. That's when me and Blake talked about this, we've been friends our whole life. His mom, my dad, best friends growing up, and so we've been around each other our whole life. And we got started into waterfowl about 5 years ago, and we're like, man, we already do this. He moved off down to Louisiana. I'm still up in the Texas Panhandle, and we're talking on the phone 2 or 3 days a week at least, and already doing this. Like, man, we ought to just put this on film, and even if no one listens, at least we have a reason so our wives aren't getting on to us for being on the phone for 2 or 3 hours a week together. At least now we have a point to it. We're trying to get somewhere with it.
Yeah.
That's what we tell them. But
awesome.
So, what over the past year and a half with doing this, or going on 2 years, what's been your biggest takeaway, I guess, from this? I'm assuming probably going to say people, but what's your biggest kind of benefits of doing this and takeaway from it?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly, no matter which direction I go with that, it's going to circle back around to the people. A lot of places, like I said, I'm fortunate. I've got a lot of time off. I've been in my job with the same township for almost 30 years now, and I've built up quite a bit of time off. So I could take the whole month of November off and still have a few weeks to go on family vacations and things like that. So I would have gone out and tried to figure it out on my own, whether it was, any of those great states in the Central Flyway. But to get an invite from people that have hunted there their whole lives and know the ins and outs, and it's public land, but you're getting basically a expert outfitter guide taking you to these public places. And that would have taken me a lot of years to figure out to get to where they're at, or paid a lot of money for a guide service to take me out there. So that has certainly probably been the best thing, is the people in those experiences.
Yes, sir. They seems like he had said, we're really familiar with that group of guys that you're talking about. And the one thing that I think has drawn me to all of y'all is, you're all seem like decent people. You're God-centered, family-centered, and everything. And I'm sure that's probably something that brought you all together with that. So
for sure.
Oh, I had a question in there somewhere, and then I went off on that. But yeah, no, I do appreciate that how y'all approach everything. Is I know you always close out with a verse and stuff like that, and then there's like, I know that Jake does the same thing kind of deal and everything, and Elliot's always been very vocal about helping people and his testimony with it and everything. So
that's for sure.
I guess more of a comment for me than a question, but just saying that, I really appreciate that, and it's always drawn me to y'all.
I wish I could do more. I try to do more, but sometimes it, you're trying to get stuff put out, and you don't always get the 100% of what you're trying to say in there.
Yes, sir. Was that was that a plan from the beginning when you started this? Was kind of including all all of your testimony and everything with it, I guess. And
it's who I am.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's part of my life. I actually had somebody send me I don't know if it was an email or a comment on Apple Podcasts or maybe YouTube. The guy said, "Oh, I love your podcast, love your videos, but you need to leave religion out of it." And I just replied back, "Well, I appreciate you saying the kind words about the videos and the podcast, but I'm gonna be upfront with you. That's not going to change. It's who I am. I'm not ashamed of Jesus. I'm not ashamed of my relationship with God, and it's given me everything that I have today. So it's just not gonna it's not going to change."
Yes, sir.
Man, I think that's a big problem nowadays. That a lot of people are they're scared to talk about it, and there's just so many people out there like that person that commented. I mean, it's trying to deter you away from your faith, and this. I mean, that's like Troy was saying. It's very nice to be able to hear a podcast about guys talking about the things we love to do, and also they're integrating the Lord and their testimony and trying to reach out and help other people too.
For sure.
Yeah, I've had a difficult time in my spiritual journey. Just with when I was raised, the three things my mother said to me was, "We don't talk about religion, politics, or money," and that kind of stuck with me. And then over the last couple of years, as I've really tried to grow in my spiritual journey and getting closer to Christ and trying to be more like Christ and everything, is I still have always in the back of my head that you don't talk about religion, and hearing all y'all, it's kind of helped a lot. And I'm still not the disciple I want to be, but
me neither.
It's always nice hearing that. It kind of always pumps me up a little bit more and everything. And so it's always been awesome hearing all y'all say
Good
that.
To hear.
Do you get to do that a lot with, I know being a police officer, the difference between a fireman and a police officer, y'all are more in a lot more crazier situations than we are at times.
Sure.
Do you try to integrate that as well? Like, I know I listen to a couple podcasts where they try to don't force it down people that they're helping, or they'll be in a spot where hey, just remember the Lord loves you and you're going to make it through this or something.
Yeah, for sure. I try to pray every day that God will use his light to shine through me. However I can glorify him, I'm always trying to do that. And being a police officer, sure, you see people at rock bottom. I mean, they have nowhere else to go. They think they're going to prison, or they think their life is over because they committed some kind of major crime. And that opens a lot of doors. I've had people at their most vulnerable point probably in their lifetime. And you can say to that person, "Yeah, you made a mistake, but guess what? We all do."
Yeah.
There's somebody that paid the price for every one of our mistakes that we've done on this earth. And that's Jesus. And he wants a relationship with you. And you might not be in a place now or tomorrow or the next day, but there's hope. If you want to reach back out to me, I'd be happy to help you find a Bible-based church or seek that out on your own. It's made a big difference in my life, and I think it would make a big difference in your life. And I've been given that opportunity many times over 30 plus years in law enforcement, for sure.
That is truly amazing. Like I said, just rounding that out, I appreciate everything y'all do with that. Like I said, it's helped me out a lot, and just kind of, like I said, being a better disciple and make disciples kind of thing, just would help with that journey. So I really do appreciate that. Well, out of this, what's your kind of the biggest thing you've learned, since you were saying you kind of used this you wanted to use this as a learning thing as well? What's some of the biggest lessons you've learned from this, being able to talk to all the amazing people that you've had on your show?
Well, the one thing I've learned, all of the successful people that I've talked to that consistently kill ducks, and it's funny because people think, oh, well, they live in the Central Flyway. Ducks just pour into wherever they're at and they can just shoot them. It's easy. It's not. I've been out there several times. We've had friends and acquaintances hunting pretty much in the same areas as us that were getting skunked, and we were still getting on birds. It's just the amount of work that the successful people, it's the same pattern, whether I'm talking to Jake Maxwell, Elliot Snyder, Aiden Shorney, they're just tenacious with their entire body of waterfowl work. It's not just, well, I think there might be birds here on Saturday. I got to work all week. I'll just go out and see what happens. No, they're studying eMaps or OnX or Google Earth or whatever all week. They're watching the weather. They're watching the water levels of the places that they hunt. They're getting out there and putting boots on the ground in the middle of summertime when it's 100 degrees, when everybody else is sitting at the pool. I mean, that's probably been my biggest takeaway, is how lazy that I can allow myself to get sometimes over the season. And when I work hard, it doesn't always work out. Sometimes you can do everything perfect and it's not going to happen. That's true for anything in life. But most of the time, if you're working hard, you're going to get rewarded for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can attest to that Central Flyway, because I live in the Central Flyway, and I have to work for those birds.
Mm-hmm.
We have a little more opportunity at some mallards from time to time than some other places, but man, it's all 7 of us that hunt in the Panhandle all hunt at the same spot. So
right. Yeah, I got my butt kicked on a hunt on Tuesday. I went out in Pennsylvania, and I had a great scout the day before. And when I went to hunt, I absolutely got my teeth kicked in. I didn't have a bird within range, didn't see many birds. And it's just like, man, the last thing I want to do when I leave here is go scout, because I had the chance to hunt Wednesday too as well. But I'm like, you know what? I got to go. I got to dust myself off, pick myself up. And I went and scouted, and I couldn't find birds. And on the way home, I'm like, well, there's one more spot I could check. I just want to go home. It's been a long day. But I'm like, I'm going to stop and check that. And lo and behold, there were 4 or 5 dozen mallards in this spot. And next morning, me and Mikey went in there and beat him up pretty good. We should have had a 2-man limit. He got his first mallard limit, which that made my whole day. I said, I'm so happy for you. And I missed blew a couple opportunities. I shot a couple mallards, but it felt good after getting my teeth kicked in. And I thought, it was worth it. It was worth getting back out there and putting the work in.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that for him. I was texting him, and he said his deer season's not been great so far. So I'm glad to see he's getting some stroke of luck.
Yeah. He was floating on cloud 9.
Yeah, that's awesome. He's a good guy. I really enjoyed having him on.
Sure
We've been kind of keeping up back and forth since then. Out of your talking about your Central Flyway and everything, out of the trips you've taken, you've gone to Canada and Central Flyway about 2 or 3 times now so far. What's been your favorite trip out of kind of experiences out of those?
Man, it's kind of hard to pick. I've kind of got this policy of not saying state names, because I've got a lot of friends in these different states, and, a lot of YouTube and podcasters are just getting bashed for, you got to quit telling people where you're hunting. And it used to be okay. Like, okay, I could say the state. No one's going to figure out where I'm hunting. But, I mean, I could say it on here. It's not like anybody's going to figure it out. Probably the Sandhills of Nebraska. I don't know if you've ever been to that part of the country, but it's just
for the day 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Absolutely gorgeous. And to be able to kill ducks there. And we didn't have, I spent some time, I think we hunted 3 or 4 days in a row in the area, but we had one day that was just a banger mallard hunt. We had a 3-man mallard limit, and everything was just working perfect. It's from last season on my YouTube channel. I forget what episode it is, but it was me, Aiden, and Jeremy Ragsdale. And you can go see that hunt over there. That was probably my favorite overall hunt. But there's a bunch of other close seconds. I've never been to Canada for an early hunt like that, where there's just birds everywhere. Unfortunately, most of them are brown, no matter what you're shooting, because they don't really have their plumage yet, so they're not quite as pretty. but to be able to shoot 8 ducks a day, big ducks, and there was days that we had 8 mallards each on the strap. And it's just like,
Wow.
this is crazy.
They're quite a bit of size difference. So those ones that are still up there, they all still pretty skinny while they're up there.
Some of them were pretty decent size. Like you shoot some older ones, they're going to have the size just because they're fully mature birds.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's a lot of juveniles, a lot of eclipsed younger ones for sure.
Yeah, I think we talked about it on the way home, that the Sand Hills part was, we went over there. We have a guy on here that's Tyler. He guides up there in, I think, Scotts Bluff. Is that where it was, Troy?
I'll neither confirm nor deny.
He guides, and he invited us up there to go hunt with him, and
the weather did not work with us, but our buddy had never gotten.
It got warm, huh?
It
did. Man, it did.
Yeah.
The days it was 15 degrees when we rolled in, and 85 while we were there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we drove 5 hours. Like, we left at midnight from the Airbnb because we were in the central, pretty much, of the state.
Mm-hmm.
And drove in. Well, we could see nothing, and the sun came up, and you're just sitting in the spot he had us, and we were just like, "Oh wow, this is pretty. Like, this is pretty part of the state
for sure."
Yeah, the one guy one of the guys, our other buddy that with this, he had never gotten a mallard, and so our goal was to get him a mallard. And that is all we shot that day, was that one mallard, and he got it. So success in a way.
That's great. Yeah,
but man, it was beautiful over there. Like, we didn't get to see anything driving in. We were all on a hunting trip, deprived of sleep, because me and Blake got up that first morning. Me and him drove to Wichita, and then left our awful hotel not quick enough at 4 a.m. and we drove in, and right about sunlight we hit Nebraska, and we scouted until we started hunting that night. We never even went to the Airbnb. We just like, hey, we got 2 of the dogs with us, let's throw them out. And here, we were all pretty deprived, so we slept a lot of the way on the way to that part of Nebraska, and then while we were there, it was beautiful getting to see it over there. That was my first time up in that part of the country. Is it quite a big difference for you geographically wise coming over here or to the Central Flyway hunting from Pennsylvania? I've never been to that part of the country, over to Pennsylvania.
It depends what parts. There's some parts of the eastern part of the Central Flyway that are kind of still eastern deciduous forest and rolling hills. That's kind of what I'm in here. So a lot of the marshes and swamps that I was in, I could say, oh, it looks like something back home I'd see. But some of the prairie marshes in the middle of nowhere, when you get out into the pothole regions away from the eastern edges of the Central Flyway, first time I went out and hunted early teal, sitting in some of those potholes in the middle of a grass, like thousands of acres of just a grass field, and there was just a little low spot with a 50-acre pothole or something, and then there's just ducks everywhere. It's like, what? This is crazy looking. Feel like you can't hide anywhere. It's just wide open. So that was kind of a shocker.
Yeah, we call them. I'm always trying to figure out what to call them, because here we call them plies, but nowhere else they call them playa lakes. Because that's, years we'll have them here, and then years we won't, depending on how much drought we have. So, like this year, last 3 years, we've actually had a pretty decent amount of rain compared to the last 15 years of drought. So it's not been bad, but yeah, it's a lot of scouting goes to waste when it dries up right at the end of summer. We'll have all that rain. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to hunt there. This is where I'm going to set up. It's going to stay. And then come, August, it's gone. Just
these last
dirt.
handful of years have been terribly dry. Terrible.
Well, for the rest of the hunting season, you got any big trips planned or going out of state or anything like that? Or are you staying home most of the rest of the year or hunting season?
Yeah, most of my big stuff is kind of slowing down. I'm going to hunt Missouri with Ben Myers from Flight Day. He's got a family farm there. Sometime in December, I might actually be hunting with Elliot Snyder
for the giveaway hunt.
That trip, yeah,
that's awesome.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, but Ben, since Ben's a partner of the show, I basically have free range to come down and hunt with him whenever I want to. But I thought it'd be kind of fun to meet up with Elliot while he's here, because I don't get to see him enough. And I guess his hunt winner's not bringing a +1. And he's like, I got the Airbnb for an extra person, and Ben was expecting an extra person, and we talked to Ben, and he was like, heck yeah, come down. It'll be a blast. So that'll be December. Got a big hunt coming up in January with avies. I was kind of blown away when I got the phone call of what they're putting together. It's going to be pretty cool. I can't say much about it yet, but it's going to be a big hunt, kind of a, not competition. I don't want to call it a competition style, because nobody wants to say you're competing shooting animals. I mean, that's just a kind of a fun competition, bunch of different guys affiliated with avies are getting together at a pretty awesome place that I never thought somebody like me would be going to hunt. So
that'd be awesome.
I'll be announcing that as soon as I get the word from Rhett from Avies Hunting Gear.
Is that something you're going to get to be able to film and release on that once it's done? Well, that'd be awesome. I look forward to hearing and seeing that.
And they're going to have like professional camera crews, and it's going to be a big deal with a bunch of other brands, and it's going to be pretty cool.
Oh, wow. That awesome. Sounds like an amazing experience. Well, Blake, did you have any other questions at the moment?
No. I mean, I get most of the questions I ask are you answer in your podcast, so I just listen to y'all. You're not the last one with Rite guys. I really want to listen to that one because I do own Rite and the older style when they first came out. So, but I mean, I got to listen about your hunt with the Central Flyway with Elliot and all of them, and it seems like y'all had the same deal we did. I mean, we went out, we were on the ducks, and we were shooting really good and having a lot of good success, and then it just warmed up and
they disappeared.
And they just disappeared. And lo and behold, I come home to Louisiana, and this is probably the most duck we've seen in this area in a long time. I mean, I've only been hunting here for 2 years, but I talked to a guy that on Elliot's, the Patreons, they all the time, and I mean, this morning they shot a 5 before 9 o'clock.
Oh wow!
So all the ducks left up there, and they're down here now. So I'm kind of excited about that.
I was going to say there was two nights where it was like in the teens with the wind chill, and we got up in the morning. So I had to figure that pushed a bunch of birds out. They're not going to stick around for that bitter cold.
No.
Yeah, it got real cold, pushed out maybe a few more down, and then the heat, everything just like out of there as soon as that heat kicked in, it seemed like, and we were shooting stale birds kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I guess with the avies, talking about that, are you still using that avies blind bag this season?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a hybrid elite pack.
Yeah, if you want to go through that, kind of walk us through some of the big stuff you carry, maybe some out of the ordinary stuff, anything like that, anything you want to go over through it, walk us through that. Because I've been real interested to kind of hear what you thought of that avies bag.
Yeah, so I don't know how much video you guys do. I'll try to show it without knocking all my microphone and everything out of the way. But this is the hybrid elite pack. You can go search online if you want to get a better look at it. It's really well thought out. That's what I really like about the avies gear. Rhett Strickland really put a lot of time and research and development into this bag, and it's got pockets everywhere. It's got, instead of having the typical backpack where you open the top and it's just a big hole, there's actually shelving in there, and it opens in the front. The flap opens in the front, so you have shelves, so you're not digging through everything. So yeah, I can kind of walk you through my typical pack, however you want me to do it. Start at the top. So the top part here, I've got my headlamp. I've got a backup headlamp. And then I don't know if you guys ever saw those neck lights that Blind Grass Camo was putting out.
Yes, yeah.
I had Jay on the show, and And this thing's a mess from my trip. And he had these neck lights. He was telling me about these neck lights, and man, it's nice. You put it around here, and sometimes when you got a headlamp on, your hands kind of get in the way or you're blinding people. This, you can kind of position them to point wherever you need them without blinding people, and kind of out of your way. Like, even like when you're turning your head with a headlamp, the light's going this way, where the neck light, the light's constantly in front of you, so you're not tripping over things and things like that. But pretty cool. It's nice to have extra lights. And like I said, I always carry an extra headlamp because one always goes bad.
Yeah, I kayak so I have plenty of headlamps because I've been out there when my headlamp died. I thought I put it on the charger. I didn't, kind of thing, and I carry at least 2 or 3 on me just because that lake, I don't want to get lost in the middle of it out there at 3:30 in the morning.
And then I've got a couple of extra duck and goose calls in here. You forget your lanyard one time, and you'll be glad that you threw a couple old calls just to have in your pack, because I've been there. And then the main compartment, I've got my 2 GoPros in a case. I've got clamps and extra batteries for the GoPros. I always carry 1 or 2 extra layers, whether it's the AV Stratum hoodie. It's a really comfortable hooded sweatshirt, but it's also thin enough and small enough you can roll it up, tuck it in a pack. I've got probably 2 or 3 different pairs of gloves. I always have a waterproof set for picking up decoys. And I've got the set that I can shoot with. I never used to wear gloves at all, but sometimes, some of those days in Pennsylvania, it just gets bitter, bitter cold. And I finally found, after much searching and checking and experimenting, a pair of gloves that are warm, waterproof, and I could shoot with them. They're thin enough to shoot with. So I got those in there. I've got side pouch. I've got like a little medicine kit. It's got ibuprofen, Tums, sinus medication, chapstick, stuff like that. Got my little pick stick for picking up shells, one of those collapsible Mojo sticks with a magnet on it. Oh, what else I got in here? This thing has a rain fly, which is nice. The back and the bottom have a waterproof fabric on it, so you can lay it down in the water. But if it starts raining, you can cover the whole thing. I've obviously got my shell bag, waterproof shoddy gear. Flight Day sends those out when they send out their shells. Obviously got my call lanyard. I've got my duck strap.
Do you differentiate? Do you keep yours separate between goose and duck call, or do you throw them all in the same together?
I just have one goose call on my lanyard. Okay. Yep. Try to get this out here without knocking everything over. I actually made this lanyard with paracord. I forget what they call it, a cobra weave or something.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice.
And then I've got one goose call. I've got the 6-way whistle. I've got an echo call on here that I really like. This is an old R&T Diablo that my mentors, Chris and Jamie Palmer, got me for Christmas one year. And of course, my northern duck call cut down. I'm getting a little better at it. I'm still working at it.
How's the cut down journey going?
It's going all right.
I have not ventured in there yet.
It's a whole different experience. And this is the only duck band I ever got. I got that on the bottom of my lanyard. I don't have a bunch of them on here like a lot of people.
I still haven't pulled a band yet.
I'm chasing for one.
And then my duck strap is the same paracord, the black and brown. And that's got a little different weave on it to carry my ducks out.
Awesome.
So kind of a matching set that's kind of old now, but kind of cool. I still like to make stuff on my own, like I was talking about making my own bows and things before. And then I've got some black hockey tape. You never know when something's shiny. You got to wrap some tape around it, or if something breaks, you got to tape it up. I've got a little folding saw for cutting brush. I need to throw in one of those little hand pruners. I notice a lot of people have the hand pruners that seem to be a little bit faster and a little better. I've got a granola bar of some kind always in here, bottle of water, a little bit of that flexible wire if I got to tie some blinds together.
That's smart. I never thought about something like that. I keep zip ties, but that wire would be something like that would be useful.
Yeah, it's rubber coated and it's real easy to cut. Comes in pretty handy.
Now, on that Avies bag, does that have a deal where you can like hang it on like the swamp stick or, you know, the swamp poles kind of deal where you can access everything from the front? Is it pretty usable, user-friendly that way?
Absolutely. Yeah, I actually have a swamp stick that I love. I started using this year. I built a bunch of homemade ones, but none of them were as nice as that swamp stick that's actually manufactured for a purpose. But the Avies bag has a tree strap on it if you're hunting in the timber. It kind of wraps up in a little zipper pocket. And then this thing has handles everywhere. There's a handle on the top, handle on the front, handle on the side. So you can pretty much hang it in any direction you want on a swamp stick.
Okay. Yeah, with me doing kayaking, I kayak in, so I'm always pretty conscientious of how I pack everything, and so that's kind of always the big issue I have. And I like the size of my my blind bag now, but I've been looking for something that could hold everything because I kind of have stuff spread out as well because I put it in a beaver tail and pull behind me kind of like a trailer whenever I'm paddling out.
Yeah, I used to use the standard like square blind bag that everybody usually uses, and then a couple years back I went to a backpack, and it's one less thing I got to carry if I got to throw something on my shoulders, and it's a little heavier, and I happen to be an overpacker. Sometimes I take too much stuff, but I don't think I'd ever go back. I like having the pack like that, the backpack.
Yeah, that's awesome. What Corey bought my blind bag from me, and I went with the Alps pack, and everyone, that's huge, and I need to find a different one. But everybody gives me some grief. They call me at the kitchen sink. But I liked it too because it had the sling on the back where you could tie your gun to it. And, and you don't have to haul in your
gun case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a lifesaver for me and him because we were busting through ice up there, and he was able to carry his gun in that pack on the back, and all we had in ours was the decoys and everything, and I was just dragging the sled, and he was breaking ice for me in front, and so that was him having that was a lifesaver for us that day.
Yeah, you can put your gun on the side. There's a sling, and then also on the front they have a place you can put like spinner poles and things.
Awesome.
Yeah, like a Velcro strap. You can put those in there. Yeah, it's pretty innovative. There's a lot of thought that went into this. This isn't just like a regular pack.
Yeah, I knew from following you, it seemed like you sounded pretty happy, but I was like, man, I wanted to make sure and get your opinion on it and kind of your thoughts on it after using it for a while, because I think after this season, I'm probably going to be looking for something a little bit different going into next season after retire mine.
They've got a heck of a sale going on now. I was shocked to see some of the prices they got for Black Friday. Some of it's 60% off.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on today. I want to give you a chance real quick. Anything you want to, shout out, plug all your stuff, anything else that you want to shout out or kind of talk about for a minute?
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. It's always a pleasure to come on and talk waterfowl to like-minded, passionate guys, especially when you're Christ followers. Got a lot in common there. And Migrationg Waterfowl. It's pretty easy to find. We're on Instagram, Facebook. I try to do the TikTok thing, but man, they just block every video. It seems like anytime you talk about guns or ducks or ammo, even if you don't show anything. But we're there. We're on YouTube. Instagram's probably my biggest, my favorite social media, if I have to pick a favorite, because I truthfully don't like any of it, but it kind of comes with the territory. But that seems to be doing the best, and that people enjoy the content there. So you can reach out to me, any of the podcast platforms. You can find us: Apple, Spotify, iHeart. I don't think I found one yet that doesn't populate the show. So whichever one you like to listen to, you can find us every Thursday. I haven't missed a week yet. So every Thursday there's one coming out, and I keep saying I want to try to do a couple extra, but I just never make it happen. So yeah, Migrationg Waterfowl.
Yes, sir. Well, again, thank you so much. Like I said, I appreciate you coming on and everything you do. It's always a pleasure listening to you every week, and really enjoy the opportunity for you to sit down and come on and talk with us.
For sure, guys. I appreciate it.
Okay. Well, everyone, thank you for listening again. We will catch y'all next week